Thank you for listening to another episode of the ABC Music Talk podcast, the podcast for anyone interested in the music industry. Today's guest talks about the relationship artists have with fans, or at least should have. But first, it's time to remind you to go rotor your videos. Rotor is for artists, managers, labels, or anyone in the music industry who needs to create video content for promotion or monetization. Rotor makes it fast, easy, and inexpensive to do all of that in one place. Head to www.abcmusic.co and click the Rotor logo on the homepage to access a 10% off discount for the service. Welcome. Founder of Supapass, Juliana Meyer.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me. In this episode, we're going to focus on how artists should perhaps rethink how they connect with their fans, because we've had a little chat beforehand. And Supapass is, of course, designed to do that. So, can we kick off with a little elevator pitch about Supapass?
Sure, of course. So Supapass is the all-in-one website and app maker for your content, community, and paywall. And what that basically means is we can give an artist their own mini Netflix/Spotify on their own website and their own mobile app within a couple of days. So you can have all of your music there, all of your videos there, all of your blogs there, any other content you're making can all be together in one place on a place that you completely own. You keep 100% of any subscriptions or payments that you get there. And it's really a beautiful way that you can have a home online to build your community and to drive that fan engagement.
Wonderful. So it's a great way of really sort of having a destination for your fans to find out about everything that's going on, and presumably, and we'll probably learn a bit more about other aspects of it, but things like exclusive content or first access to things. It's been interesting to watch how this reframing of how artists should interact with their fans. I mean, because ultimately I have this little phrase that I have on this podcast. The only important things are the artists and their fans, and everything else is either getting in the way or enhancing that relationship. And so Supapass clearly sounds designed to enhance rather than get in the way.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the two most important things is the artists and fans. But I think there's actually three most important things. It's the artists, the fans, and the music or the content itself. I think that so often we all get so focused in the music industry on the marketing and driving traction, and we kind of lose how we can really just be creative and focus on that. And so to give you a little bit of background of kind of where all this came from, it was actually really based around that. So I was an artist running my own label, and I was actually frustrated that there wasn't enough focus on the content and the music itself, because you'd record an album and then you'd have to go and promote it, and then you'd be writing other songs, but you wouldn't get around to recording those until the initial excitement of recording them was kind of already stale because you'd been out there, promoting all the stuff you already recorded a year ago. So it was really about this drive of, okay, well, if you're writing stuff, how can you, and, it's been wonderful actually during lockdown, seeing a lot of artists actually doing this now. It's wonderful. You can write something the same day, you can just record it, and then just put it out with a unexpected release. And we've obviously seen some big artists doing that, and there's some small artists that have been doing that for a long time. And I think creating an environment where you can really, really focus on the music itself, and maybe it's not just the music, maybe it's also the videos you're making, maybe it's the podcast you're making. Obviously, they're massively growing now in popularity for a lot of artists, and also in the music industry, people making podcasts. And if you could focus more on who's listening or watching that content, and how are you going to get more opportunity to create more, that's really what we're about. So we join that direct connection, and it's not just between the artists and their fans, because actually we work with all the stakeholders. So it would be the artist, their management, their label, the publishers, that whole ecosystem. I think sometimes people think, oh, this is, really kind of separate to that. But actually we work with the whole ecosystem of whoever's behind the music. So when I talk about the artists, actually I'm talking about all of those, and creating a place where you can really create a home for those super fans. And that's really what this is about. You've got a wonderful opportunity through the streaming platforms and through live shows and through social media to grow that audience. But then what happens to that top 1 to 10% of your most loyal fans, those super fans? And are those social media platforms really delivering what they need? And that's really where we feel it's a bit broken in the market. That, you know, for example, on Facebook, you've got to pay Facebook to boost your post to actually let more than 10% of your followers see what you're posting about. So loads of fans miss tour announcements or important announcements because it literally hasn't shown up. So that is definitely not catering to the needs of super fans. So what we're doing for artists is creating a space that isn't instead of those activities, it's as well as, but it's not extra work because it's integrated with the whole ecosystem. So it integrates with, you know, it's all the content that's already commercially released. It's also a place for putting a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually have a place online at the moment. So, you know, whether it's archives or rare bootlegs, or, I mean, for some of our artists we work with, their fans actually find bootlegs and then send them to them to add to the app because there's stuff that the artist didn't even know existed. You know, it's really, really interesting how it's kind of a place where fans and artists can come together to just interact more on the stuff that really matters to them. And so, yes, I was saying this, so it does integrate with all those different things, but it means that when you've got some new announcement, your fans have an app, your app, where they'll get a push notification to say, okay, we've got this really special announcement, or here's a new track that I just recorded last night, or whatever it is. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that fans actually miss out on those important announcements. So there's tons of different sides to this. Another side is the fact that it's a place where fans can actually have the opportunity to pay directly to the artists. And again, when I say the artists, I mean the whole artist ecosystem, the label, the management, publishers, everyone. But that it's not going through a third-party platform like a Spotify or Apple or wherever else. It actually means that 100% of any revenue that is earned on that website and app goes directly to the rights holders. So as Supapass, we don't take any cut. So we kind of started in the industry. A lot of people may remember we were the fair trade streaming app because it was all about how do we actually just pay as much as possible to the rights holders. And that's kind of where we started, but it has massively evolved since then. So if anyone hasn't sort of kept up with what Supapass has been up to, I guess it's a good opportunity to kind of fill in that gap. Shall I go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, please. Yeah, I'm you know, this is really fantastic. I'm going to scrap all of my questions, and we're just going to go into all of the things that you just talked about because it's super interesting. But yeah, carry on.
Okay, cool. So so I guess where we started was very much that kind of subscription streaming space where it was owned directly by the rights holders. And this was 10 years ago. So this is the days before Patreon. This is the days when Spotify had only just launched in the US. This is when Netflix had only just started their subscription streaming. They were obviously doing the DVDs before that point, but they'd only just started their subscription streaming. So this idea of subscriptions for streaming content was very, very new. And we thought, right, brilliant. This is a great opportunity. But instead of just having these big platforms have, you know, then aggregate all the content, aggregate all the money, and then distribute it, and actually it's really topical now with all the discussion around artist-centric streaming, artist-centric subscriptions. But that's basically what we were doing 10 years ago. We thought, great, let's have a way to also let fans pay directly to the artist, and if they just want to listen to that artist in that month, then great, they can do it for £1. You know, they don't even have to be paying £10. So it was a way that you could really join up those dots. So that's kind of where we started, and the idea was that, as you know, so as I say, you know, now we've got to the point it's 100% revenue that goes to whoever owns the website and the app.
So what's your business model then? How do you make money?
So we are actually a SaaS model, so software as a service, and we just charge a monthly fee for the tech. So the same way as if you have a Squarespace site, for example, you'll just pay Squarespace £20 a month. It's that same kind of model. So basically you're paying us for the tech, and then anything you do on it is completely yours. So it's all your branding, it's all your content, it's all your licensing, it's all your sales, it's your customer data. Everything is 100% owned by you. And we basically get out the way. We say what we do really well is give you your own Spotify or Netflix platform where you can do anything you want. And we make sure we keep that up to date, and we're adding new features all the time, and we take care of all of that technology pain. Because, for a lot of people that would love to have their own platform like that, they just can't, because it's too expensive, it's too complicated. And even if you think you can build it up front, you then got to maintain it. And we've even seen, the big labels, like when Universal did the collaboration with Classic FM to do the classical app. And we've seen loads of rights holders over the years try to do the tech, and the tech is really hard. And every time that's failed. And what we've said is, okay, we specialize in the tech. We will do that. We mean that you could have, if a label wanted to literally have their own equivalent of Spotify, they could have that with us within a week. They could literally launch that. For their content. Obviously, if you're licensing, if they're licensing other content, that's where it gets complicated and that's where it slows down. But technology-wise, there's nothing standing in the way of. We have literally got apps live within 24 hours. So we actually work with a lot of conferences now and events. So another thing quite relevant to the music industry, loads of really, really cool conferences that have either that are online now, but even after things start to be in person again, everything gets filmed now, and there'll be a sector of the audience that will probably always be virtual online now, even in face-to-face conferences. And what we do is, if you've got a conference where you've got tons of recordings from it, we actually can give you your own mini Netflix to have all the watch again recordings, which is great for people that maybe didn't get to see all the sessions at the event. Maybe they missed something, or maybe they just want to see it again.
So it's a little bit like Apple had that Apple Festivals thing, and it was obviously one way of sort of getting content onto their Apple TVs that they just launched. That, but it was fantastic. I was lucky enough to go and see a few of the things at the Roundhouse in real life. But of course, I didn't get to see everything. But I was able to tune in and watch, some of the incredible artists that they had on the lineup. So it's something similar to that, I guess.
Yeah, so you could do it exactly. So you could also do it with festivals and shows and, anything like that. It's a way to very, very easily put all that. For example, like Glastonbury would be a great example. Imagine a Glastonbury app where you could have all of the footage from Glastonbury on there from all the different years. We could provide that for them really easily out the box. So coming back to the conference stuff.
So Glastonbury, if you're listening.
Or any conference.
I got Juliana's details, festival.
Yeah. So yeah, we've made it so easy. So as an example, we've done the Watch Again app for Podfest, which is basically they got Guinness World Record for the most podcasters to attend a virtual event, and we did the app for their conference, and we've actually done 4 of their conferences now, and there's another one that we're doing for them in May, and. For them, they've got over 1,000 video sessions in the app now. And the first conference we did for them, the conference finished on the Friday. There was about 500 sessions. We started uploading it on the Monday morning, and by 2 p.m., we'd uploaded all 500 videos and submitted the build to the app stores. So we literally made their entire app for 500 videos within a day. So it's possible to do it that quick. Most of the time it takes longer just because people aren't that organized with the content. We obviously, we had everything we needed at 9 a.m, so we could just bang it out. But we can make it really, really easy and quick. And then, of course, that's content that they can then sell on beyond the event. They can then sell it on to others that maybe didn't come to the event. And now they're able to then curate it. They've obviously now got content over so many different events. And because in the apps you can curate it very much like Netflix or Spotify, so they can then curate it not just into what sessions were on what day or what track. They can then say, okay, so these are all the videos about how to turn your podcast into a YouTube channel. Here are all the videos about what microphones to buy, and then people can actually come in and go, okay, I just want to watch all the stuff about microphones. So then they can pay a one-time purchase just to have access then to all those videos. So it's actually repurposing your conference content or event, or and this is also the same for coaches, business coaches who are doing either one-to-one teaching or group workshops and things.
So is your business one of the ones that's done quite well out of the pandemic? Have you seen an uptick in or perhaps a bigger variety of people using your platform?
Yeah, it's been really, really busy. So during the pandemic, the first couple of lockdowns, we helped creators and entrepreneurs increase their revenue 1,200%.
Oh, wow. Wow.
through what we're doing. And we saw a few trends. So we saw that firstly, our existing clients started using it all a lot more, started driving a lot more engagement and doing a lot more with it, because before they probably had other parts of their business that wasn't just about digital content that they were focused on, and suddenly they were like, okay, right now what can we do? And this was a really great opportunity for them to really drive that traction. So we saw that. We saw others who had sort of been meaning to do it for a long time. They came to us and said, this has been on our to-do list for a while, but it just was never top of the list. We just never got around to it. And so suddenly it became their top priority. And then we had others that were literally just finding new ways to either transition online or start a new business, or, a lot of people that had lost their jobs and had all these incredible skills and then wanted to, find other ways to earn a living. So yeah, I mean, the other massive growth area, there's been the biggest two growth areas that we've seen, other than the events that we talked about, the event recordings, is anybody's an expert. So everyone is an expert in what they do. And a lot of people suddenly thought, I've got all these skills, like especially like in the film industry and stuff like that, suddenly people didn't have work, but they have all these skills. So people are like, okay, I'm going to make courses on what I know and then actually sell those courses. So we had a lot of people coming to us to work out how to actually turn their skills into a business. And then the other massive growth area has been podcasting. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. In March alone, I think we grew by 50% in March, and most of that was podcasters. So it's a massive growth area for us, but it's not just podcasters, it's podcasters that are making other content. So they'll be making video courses, they'll be making blogs, they'll be, some of them are musicians that also have music content. It's all kinds of things. And basically they want to have a way to make money from their content. They want to have a way to have all their content in one place instead of really fragmented everywhere. And also they want to create a community that they own that isn't a Facebook group or something that's on another platform, and maybe charge a subscription or add a paywall. So yeah, that's really been the kind of the trends that we've been seeing.
Amazing. Oh, wow. Okay. It sounds absolutely incredible, and I'm so pleased that things have gone well for you. And
I just wish it was under different circumstances.
Of course.
Because obviously it's been terrible for everyone.
But what I was going to say was that what you've actually done, though, is you've helped lots of other people establish a new revenue stream, or perhaps even a new business, and that's a really good thing to have out there in the world. So well done you. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so where to begin? So I think it'd be good to talk about the problems that the social platforms give to artists. I know this myself from running a podcast. Obviously I work with artists. My listeners know I do other things, work with record companies and work on projects. And yeah, trying to get your message, disseminate your message out to your fans using some of those social platforms is honestly really hard, because the way the algorithms just bury what you're doing, like you can't tell them all at the same time or in the right way. And so, it really does sound like if you can do exactly what you described, which is channel them through to a place which is, well, their channel, then you have a much better chance of actually doing it. And the push notifications is really interesting, because that's the sort of thing that, some people have a bit of a love-hate with. Push notifications can be good sometimes, but sometimes a bit annoying. But I guess in your case, it's not like a news push notification that's going to ping every 15 minutes because something happens in the world. It is only going to be about something that people are actually interested in. Do you have any sort of stats on how effective that is, or anything that you can comment on? I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, push notifications is a massive reason why having an app is so valuable. So, I guess the holy grail of marketing is get their email address. And it's incredible how many creators we work with that have never started building an email list. And I think it goes in waves. You sort of see that, obviously, it used to be the thing that everyone did. And then with the rise of social media, a lot of the time, the emphasis wasn't on building the email list. And I think that trend is now changing. I think people are really seeing the value of building those email lists, particularly as different social platforms go in trends. So, if talking the music industry, I guess it's really relevant to still bring up MySpace. We all put so much effort. Yeah. I mean, you laugh. Everyone laughs when I mention it, but it's a really important use case.
Sure.
everyone put in so much time and energy into MySpace. And actually, so back in my previous life, so we were like one of the first DIY bands back in the 90s, and we had a website and we recorded our own album and we did all this stuff, before people had DAW, and, we were doing it on a multi-tracker. So we've always been quite entrepreneurial and quite techie. And so we had a really cool website that was our own website for our band. And then MySpace came along and everyone, and then promoters were like, what's your MySpace? I was like, why are you asking for our MySpace? Like, here's our cool website. Look how it's got things that jump around the screen. I mean, how cool is that? Back in the day, things like that were cool. And the fact that then everything moved to MySpace was kind of weird, but then you sort of said, okay, well, let's embrace this. So then we all put in probably thousands of hours into building up that MySpace audience. And then it was out of fashion. Like, nobody wanted to be on MySpace. Everyone was on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or wherever things moved to. And now we're seeing that people are moving away from Facebook. Facebook's not so cool anymore. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm not really on Facebook. So that's then becoming a problem. Your audience is really split. And then TikTok's come along and everyone's like, oh, brilliant. I can grow my audience here. And so then people are jumping onto TikTok.
But like TikTok's really specific. Like it's a very specific type of thing, and it's a world away from what Facebook is, right? And this is another thing.
And the same with Snapchat.
Yeah. You can't control how
Snapchat was the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, now we've got Clubhouse as well. Like, everyone's jumping on Clubhouse and it's the next big thing. And
until it gets bored or gets, like, beaten by something else, right? And then you've lost your audience again.
Yeah. And I think the take home from all of this and the lesson to learn from all of this is that these platforms are amazing for growing your audience, finding new audiences, and for that kind of top of the funnel marketing. And everyone should use them for that. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to build your home there. You don't want to build your home on rented land. You want that to be on your own platform where you do have the email address, you know who those fans are, and you have a way to contact them no matter what big platform is in vogue at that particular time. So use those platforms, ride those waves, be at the crest of that curve, be ahead of the wave, but always send those fans that are your super fans, that are the most engaged, send them somewhere that's yours. And that's really where we fit into the model. So we're not doing anything that gives you extra work or is in addition to. It's really just kind of closing the loop. It's saying you're doing all the hard work. Now, reap the benefits, bring those people here to this place where you're going to have all the content you're already making. At the beginning, you mentioned exclusive content. And I think that's a really interesting question because in the music industry, people always ask me about, so this is about exclusive content. And actually, my first answer is no, it's not. Of course, if you want to put exclusive content on there, it's got the functionality for that. But that's not what this is about. This is about where you put everything you're already doing. You're already doing all that hard work. Put it all here so that those super fans have somewhere to really come where they know they'll find everything in one place, that you're not sending them on a really fragmented journey. They'll know they'll be the first to hear about something because they're going to get that push notification, coming back to your original question about push notifications. So there you're really grabbing their attention. You've got their email address, but you're not dependent on email open rates, which whilst there is still a direct way to contact people, it's still not ideal because they're obviously low. Push notifications is a much higher engagement rate. So you've got that opportunity to really get in front of the people that really matter at the right time when it matters to them and to you. And then you can bring people straight into the place that's yours. And you've got comments there so those fans can then talk to each other, which is the other thing that I think often in a lot of the conversations I have in music, people forget that actually, like, fans are setting up like their own fan clubs to talk to each other away from, Twitter or other social media platforms to find each other because those platforms are too noisy. And actually, but why not create that for yourself on your own website? So there's all these different tools that you can use for that, but then that's separate to the music and that's separate to your, everything ends up being fragmented again. So instead, have all of that on your own website, including all your content and including the stuff that's on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the other places. And it's not another thing that comes up. Sorry, as you can tell, there's loads of different dialogues that happen around this. But another thing that comes up is this question of cannibalization. Oh, but if I'm going to put all my super fans on my own website, then that means that I'm not going to have those plays counting towards the charts on Spotify. And I guess if the chart is the most important thing to you, then yeah, okay, that's a valid point. But 99%, or probably even 99.99% of artists, that actually doesn't matter. What's much more valuable to them is the relationship with those fans that are going to buy their tour tickets, buy their merch, engage with what they're doing, be involved with, and spread the word to their friends. They're your kind of army on the ground. All those things are much, much, much more important to the majority of artists. So does it really matter if you're going to have some of them streaming the stuff on your own website? Because actually what you're giving them is an amazing experience. And actually what we see in the behavior of a lot of the super fans, that for artists that have a Supapass powered website or app, is actually they're still doing a lot of their streaming in Spotify or Apple Music.
I was going to say, the thing is,
because that's where they're listening to all the other
this
music.
Is it. Yeah.
They're coming here for a different purpose. The fact that you've got all the content here is a bonus and a benefit, and it just makes things convenient, but it doesn't change that behavior because they're still going to listen in those other places. What it means is that they can come, and if they're listening to the music, they can also read, the lyrics, and not just the lyrics, but the story behind the lyrics, where it was written, why it was written, all that stuff that often, who was the producer, all that stuff that often gets left off or isn't part of the experience that your casual listener even looks for. They can find all that here, and then they can talk to each other about it, and they can say, oh man, I saw this, this song being performed at this place, and other ones go, oh yeah, I was there too. And then you'll have fans saying, hey, did you know that there's this other recording over here from when the artist was 16 that the artist doesn't even know about? Then the artist chips in and goes, wow, I didn't even remember that existed. And then some fan goes up with some story that the artist had forgotten even ever happened, because actually the fans know about the artist's life more than the artist in some of the, obviously take that with a pinch of salt, but we have seen stories like that come up where the artist is literally like, oh man, I didn't even know that. And the fans, it's like George R.R. Martin from Game of Thrones. Like, he actually has a bunch of super fans that he literally calls, because he doesn't remember like what color eyes this character had in book 2. So he literally calls up those super fans and says, if he's asking for details about a character, he'll ask the super fan, because the super fan will know, and he doesn't remember. So that's a non-music example, but there's obviously examples we can all relate to.
It's really interesting, this sort of dynamic between not ignoring the other platforms that are out there, because we all know that, as you said earlier, they fill the top of the funnel. That a lot of the work that I'll do with artists with the record company is focused on getting the algorithms within services like Spotify or Apple to help filter up into the editorial playlisting that goes on, because they're looking at numbers, they're looking at what's popular on the platform, right? That's their business. And so it's just, these are all things that have just got to kind of like move in tandem. And actually the cannibalization thing is a really interesting one, because to me, it always fascinates me the way people sort of really focus on that. But it's a bit like saying, well, I'm only then going to put my music on Spotify because Apple Music will cannibalize Spotify. It's like, that makes no sense.
It's the tail wagging the dog, basically. It's sort of avoiding this massive opportunity to actually make some real money, because you're so worried about losing this slight advantage you have in the race against everyone else on a platform where actually no one's really looking after you. So I guess it just depends on your priorities. As I say, for those artists that it's really about that chart position and that's the only thing that matters to them, then I think it's a fair argument. But for everyone else, which is, as I say, like, 99.9099 artists, then they're missing this huge opportunity to actually take control of that relationship, that data, that 100% revenue share, all of those things that actually at the end of the day matter more.
Just on with the charts, have you ever spoken to the OCC about?
We haven't. Yeah, so we haven't. We actually were. At one point, we almost got set up with them, but then actually just we kind of moved in a different direction with stuff. But it's something that we could easily do. So if it was important, when I talk about charts, I'm not actually talking about. I'm more talking about like the rankings within Spotify to get up the playlist and stuff. So I'm talking like the stats within Spotify directly. But in terms of charts, that's easy for us to add. And as I say, it just never ended up being a priority, because frankly the artists we've worked with, that's never been that important to them. So some of the artists that we work with actually have quite a lot of archive stuff. So this is another really interesting kind of way of using this. So, I mean, I guess it's similar to like the Neil Young app, which some people are familiar with, where I mean, basically, if anyone wants their own Neil Young app, that's what we do. So with the Neil Young app, you pay £4 a month or £3, I can't remember exactly how much it is, but it's a micro subscription to access all his content. And that's pretty much it. And with this, we've got a number of different kind of archival musicians where there'll be the estate, and so like Woody Shaw is an example. So he's one of the jazz greats, and he's unfortunately no longer with us, but we've got this incredible archive of not just his commercial recordings, but there's hundreds of recordings of him jamming with other jazz artists that have never been released. So his estate approached us and said, look, we really want to put this somewhere, but we don't want to devalue it. We don't want to just put it on the everything streaming platforms. We want to put it somewhere really special where it's going to be really valued by those fans that really care about this stuff. So basically we've made them an app where you can go and listen to hundreds of Woody Shaw recordings, and there's nothing else in there. There's no fan club, there's no anything else. It's really just the pure content, but it's content that it's its own space where it can really be valued, which I think is another really interesting example. And there's tons of content that is just basically sitting there in the archives within record labels, and some of it not even in the record labels, that is kind of being lost. And this is a way to actually bring that to life. And we're seeing quite a lot of clients coming to us with that kind of requirement.
Yeah, brilliant. And it was really interesting hearing you talk earlier on about how the relationship between the fan and the artist can develop through the sort of vested interest that both have in actually what's being created within your software, within your service. Obviously the artist is looking at it as a way of collating and curating and communicating, and other words beginning with C. All of their output, their personality, to their fans, but the fans are using it as their own sort of repository of fan memorabilia, I suppose, as much as like everything else that's going on. I thought that was a really interesting thing. So, so within the platform, they can actually have that direct dialogue. There's messaging and things like that.
Yeah, so there's comments around every single piece of content, and again, that's optional for some. Some creators, they want to turn that off. But basically, around any track, any video, any blog post, you can have comments and conversations around what's happening there. And a really nice example is, so Imogen Heap is one of the artists working with us, and all through the lockdowns, she's been doing live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. So one of the days was she'd basically do covers on request, and she'd basically raise, like, people would make a donation and then she'd do a cover of their choice. And all of that money has gone to fund the Creative Passport, which I guess a lot of people have hopefully heard of, but it's all about...
I am trying to get Carlotta onto the show.
You totally...
Yeah, no, she's amazing. I've done a pre-chat with her, but she was just about to launch... Creative Passport properly, so cool. She got a little busy, but that's definitely future.
Well, I'll save talking about that for when she's in, and she'll do a much better job. But it's a really, really amazing initiative.
It is,
so Imogen was doing a live stream for that, and then she was doing another live stream where she'd do Q&A, and it's I think she's doing in collaboration with IBM Watson,
right,
where they basically built an AI Imogen to answer the questions the way Imogen would answer, but through AI, which is really, really cool. And so she was doing these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday, and she'd also do these live improvisations as well. And so with these live improvisations, she'd do like 8 hours of just creating music on a live stream, and her fans would be watching, and she'd do some of that broadcast through Restream to all the social media platforms, and some of that would just be within the app to her heapsters, which are her super fans within her Supapass app. And then what she then did was she then took all those recordings, so there's 8 hours times however many weeks, which is a lot of time, and she asked the fans to go through them and decide which timestamps were bits that they really loved. So instead of her having to go back and listen to which bits to then turn into an album, she had them going through and doing that. And then we had these like just live chat sessions where they would then would basically just do it in a Google sheet where they'd then write which timestamps they thought were good, and then chat through some of them. So she was basically like crowdsourcing her super fans, getting them involved to actually be really be part of the creative process, and to know which fans to invite to do that. Supapass enabled her to really find those heapsters and have a place. Because like with Imogen, she's got, what, 2 million Twitter followers? She's got this huge audience, where she said that she preferred the days when, you know, she had a YouTube channel with a much smaller audience, because then she'd know her fans, she'd know who they were, and she felt much more connected to them. And then when her, you know, her audience became so big, she actually said that she kind of lost touch with feeling connected with them, because it was just too big, and social media is too big. And when people, you know, you post a tweet and everybody replies, it's really hard to see who's just passing through, who's coming back, who's, you know, just discovered her for the first time, or who's been a fan since day zero. And with her Supapass app, she's been able to really know, okay, these are her heapsters, you know. So she's got like 2 million Twitter followers, but only a few hundred heapsters. But that's the perfect number for her. So she knows all, you know, all of those several hundred heapsters love her. They're willing to pay money to her every single month, even in the couple of years where she wasn't even doing anything with her app. They were still paying every single month. And a lot of them, so there's pay what you want. So a lot of them are choosing, so it was £2 or two quid for a month, and loads of the fans chose to pay more. So some fans were even paying 10 or 20 bucks a month to subscribe to something that only cost $2 a month, just because they wanted to support her. And I think that just really shows how there's an opportunity to let your fans support you. You know, if you...
This is another interesting point. Sorry to interrupt you. Just because you sort of talked about this before, about, you know, obviously the select committee stuff that happened in the UK with the broken record, focus on like, where's the money going, like how's the pie being sliced up, and you've been very clear about how yours, you know, works in terms of its SaaS model, and you're paying for the software, and then you get to keep all of your revenue. And one of the problems with streaming is, for superfans, if you are a fan of somebody, you can almost only give a certain amount of money to them through that model of the $9.99 a month for all you can eat. And so I love the fact that someone like Imogen has found that fans genuinely are fans, and they want to, you know, help support her. You know, they see that as, you know, they understand, right? You know, you got to make a living, right? She's doing all this incredible creative stuff. I mean, outside of all the other businesses and entrepreneurial stuff that she does, but you know, what great proof of pudding, right? Fantastic, love it.
Yeah, and fans just want, like, if you think about what really motivates a fan, particularly a super fan, they just want more of their favorite music. Like we all love music for a reason. It's because it makes us feel amazing, and it's kind of the soundtrack to all those life events and those experiences. And if there's an artist that you really love, that the worst thing is when they just don't release anything for years and years and years. And sometimes that's for reasons outside of, you know, there's all kinds of reasons, but quite often it's because they are literally touring to promote, to pay off, you know, to kind of bring in the money back from all that investment that went into the previous work. Whereas actually, if you just say, well, actually, this is about creating amazing music, and here's this incredibly engaged audience that love it enough to pay enough to keep those wheels going, why not just join all those dots? And then you can just be creating the whole time, giving them more of what they want the whole time, and they're funding it. So I guess every artist, like as many different artists you'll have as many different like motives and objectives of why they're doing it. But I think for a lot of us artists, it is about creativity. I know certainly when I was in the past still able to spend time making music, for me, it was always about creating. That's why I love it, whether it was the energy in a jam session or writing a song in the morning and pushing it out, you know, recording it and pushing it out for, to everyone in the evening. You know, those were the best days when you just like created something and shared it immediately, and just could be completely immersed in that environment. And I think we've seen it this year with, also it's 2020 now, with Taylor Swift. You know, suddenly she didn't have to be out there touring. She didn't have to be doing all the other things that take us away from creativity. And she just got back to writing songs, recording them, amazing collaborations with some of my most favorite musicians in the world, and making incredible art. And sometimes the cogs and wheels that we put around promotion actually get in the way of us making the thing that matters, which is the music. At the core of all of this, it's the music. And secondary is who's listening to the music, who's that connecting with, and why does it matter to them, and letting them create more of that. It's the perfect wheel, isn't it? That, like, it almost can be that simple. You don't need any of the other stuff. in a perfect world.
Yeah, I had an artist friend of mine on the podcast very early on, and I've told this story a few times, so apologies to my listeners, but it's relevant here. I asked him at one point during the interview, I said, so, what do you have to do when you put a record out? Because he was an independent artist, he's got his own label, and he just listed, and the list just kept going. I mean, it was just endless, all the different social platforms. And this is outside of actually making the music itself. I mean, it's really tough for artists right now. So so with your platform, and apologies, I don't know so much about it, but do you have that sort of interconnectivity with some of the other social platforms and things like that? I mean, when somebody sort of uses it as their focal point for their output, how does it connect elsewhere?
So it depends. One of the types of content that we're really integrated with is actually podcasts. So with a podcast, you'll have your podcast host, and that will distribute it to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those other places, and that will actually automatically pull it in to your own website and an app that we're powering. So you're not having to think about, okay, I've also got to upload this to my website. It's just automatically there, and it's got all the show notes and everything else you're doing. It's all there. And actually for a podcast, if they created a new account with us, they literally come and it says, are you a podcaster? They type in the name of their podcast. It automatically makes their podcast app, and it builds the website landing page as well. And so literally within 10 minutes, they can have their own beautiful podcast website and mobile apps. Then obviously to add all their other content, whether that's videos or blogs or any of the others. Actually with blogs, they also can just pull it in through the RSS. That obviously takes a bit more time. With music, it's a bit more complicated because it all depends on where's the music coming from, who owns the rights. That does always make it a bit more complicated. So it just depends, if it's an independent artist that doesn't have any of those issues, it can be as simple as that. If it's a label that's doing it and owns all the rights, obviously there's the publishing there too. But yeah, if it's a rights holder that owns the app that has all the rights, then it can be really simple. Otherwise, if there's the licensing questions around, for everyone else, then quite often we see that actually they just leave that content out, that is the kind of complicated licensing content, and they put all the other content that they're making that even if it's just chatting on a Zoom chat with some fans, there's so much, like, content means so many different things now, and it's not actually just about the actual commercial recordings. It might be just jamming in the studio or doing some, a little cover, Chris Martin doing a little cover on a live chat with someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all making content all the time. So making it easy for fans to find all that together is I think the key.
Wonderful, yeah, and this has been absolutely fascinating. I really do appreciate you doing all this. So I want to talk a little bit more about you, if that's all right. I'm interested in you, because you've created this business for other people, and it's clearly having such a profound impact on their own sort of ability to do what they want to do with their lives. Did you have any mentors that you can kind of really sort of think back to that helped you sort of arrive at some of these decisions about how this was going to all turn out? Or, I mean, was there any influences that you had in your life?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. So I'm really, really lucky that we have the most incredible advisors and mentors and supporters all the way through the Supapass journey. So there's so many examples. I'm just trying to think where to start. So Jeremy Silver, so he was actually our chairman for a while. He's now CEO of Catapult, the government's, well, he was CEO of Digital Catapult, the government's digital program. Now he's CEO of Catapult, which is across all the different industries. But he in the past, he used to be CEO of Sibelius until that sold to Avid. He was obviously at EMI. He was involved with Shazam and Music Metric before that sold to Apple.
I know from Music Metric days. Yeah, that was a hell of an exit to Apple. That was.
So he's incredible. So he was our chairman for a number of years until he became CEO of Digital Catapult, and he's still an investor and advisor to the business. And we have Clive Gardner is our chairman. So he used to be MD of BMG in Malaysia, and
he was a great friend of mine.
At We7.
Great friend of mine. Oh my goodness, yeah, one of the nicest people in the music industry.
Absolutely, yeah. We're so lucky. So Clive got involved really, really early on when we were just bootstrapping, and as I say, he's our chairman now, and he's been involved all the way through. He's currently head of digital at NSPCC. So so he's, you know, very much involved in the charity sector now, but he's done loads of stuff in music and tech and all kinds of areas. So incredible having him involved. And also Tahir Bashir at Sheridan's. He was actually the very, very first person that I went to with the idea for Supapass. And I remember he said, I was kind of like, so what do you think? You know, should we go and shall I do it? And he said he thought it was great and he liked it so much that he basically wants to be an advisor. So he's been an advisor literally from day one.
You're very lucky with that one as well. Tahir is incredible. Yeah, well done. This is like being sort of the A-team.
So yeah, and another person who I definitely want to mention is Michelle Emerson, who so she was SVP at EMI for like 20 years. She was a group director for BBC Worldwide, group director for ASOS. She was CEO of Walpole, the British luxury brands trade body. So she's done, again, tons and tons of different stuff. She's been very involved and worked in the business, and now she's an advisor investor, a bit more outside of it, but she's been involved at all kinds of levels. And yeah, like, it's just wonderful having, and lots of other people that I hope nobody minds that I haven't mentioned you if you're listening, because there's just been people all the way along that have helped us, and often just for free as well. Like, people have just wanted to, like, they've really seen that this is an important thing for the industry, for creators, for artists, for fans, that shouldn't exist, and they've really wanted to help create that and make that possible. And loads of the introductions that have come and places that the Supapass journey has gone has been down to people hearing about it and saying, oh my gosh, I've got to introduce you to this person over here. And when I started the business, I really, really didn't know anyone in the industry. I'd been working very much in the independent part of the industry. I'd been touring for a long time. I'd been doing a lot of that kind of circuit, but in the kind of the mainstream industry, I really didn't know anyone. And it all just started from that idea and talking to people about it, and it just grew and grew. And we've worked with, you know, many of the biggest companies in the world in music, and obviously now in many other spaces. So podcasting is our absolutely biggest space now, but we also work with e-learning, health and well-being, conferences, events, membership organizations, chamber of commerce, councils, universities, all kinds of different businesses that basically have content and want to put it somewhere that they own, where they can have a user experience that looks and feels like Netflix or Spotify or the social media platforms, which most everyday businesses just can't build for themselves and maintain, and all the costs associated around that.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for all of that. So we've come up on time, so we're going to leave it there.
Excellent.
If that's all right. You're
great.
You are incredible. You are absolutely incredible, and so well done for building this business, and I hope it lasts for a very long time.
I'd really like to say thank you to the team, because we have an amazing team that have really, this is all down to them and the incredible energy that they bring every day. And also, if anyone else is listening that has helped me along the way, whether it was meeting us at a networking event and doing an intro to bigger things than that, also just thank you, because we honestly wouldn't be doing any of this stuff without every single one of those steps along the journey.
This is it's a really positive message. Yeah, thank you for adding that as well. Good. Okay. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, Alex.
No worries. To my listeners, thank you for listening. Stay in touch with the show via my socials at Alex Branson on both Twitter and Instagram. Also, a shout out to the incredible audio assassins who have provided music branding for the show. Link in the show notes. I'm also going to put some links to Supapass and to Juliana, her socials, and you can get in touch with them through that. So thank you again.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks.